I just want to make sure my kid's safe, and if anything's bad gonna happen, I'd rather be with him.
So just in case any right-wingers are watching this, there are actual real-world impacts to the shit that you support and the things that people like you are doing. Do you really think this mother deserves this? Because of your delusional thinking about trans people and the lies you've been fed, now this mother is worrying that their kid in this hospital might be getting harmed in some way, and even go on to suggest that if there is an actual bomb going on, if there's something bad that's going to happen to her kid, she'd like to be there with him. Meaning that if it's a bomb in the hospital, she's ready to go down with her own kid. These are the people you affect. Yes, do you think this woman is a predator? It's a man, brother. I seen a man once and I know what they look like. It's a man, god damn it. You know it, I know it. I'm not saying nothing you don't already know. That's a man right there, brother. That's literally J.K. Rowling. Literally the queen of the transphobes is being clocked as a trans woman, aka a secret man. So that's cool. So as you all should know by now, there is a lot of conspiracy going around when it comes to right-wingers and their interpretations of trans people simply just existing, living their lives, being normal people, going to work, paying their bills, doing the same thing everybody else is doing. And for some reason, those trans people literally just existing, doing the same things everybody else does, is cause for all manner of concern, mostly because it makes these people money and allows them to get power. However, not all of them. There are a lot of little non-public figures out there that engage with a lot of this transphobic conspiracy that don't really get a whole lot out of it, which begs the question, why do they do that? So on previous videos, we have talked about this. The most recent one that we have, conservatives are a danger to children. This one right here, go watch that one if you haven't already. It definitely goes more in depth into a lot of the story we're about to get into, because lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, communist Forbes has pointed out the unfortunate consequence of a lot of these conspiracy theories. Boston Children's Hospital bomb threat, how right-wing media escalate harassment of LGBTQ-friendly places. Yeah, so the things that literally everybody of any amount of intellectual capacity could have told you was going to happen because of the lack of sense and the easily malleable mind that a lot of these right-wingers have, well, it looks like that from the best of our knowledge, we don't know exactly who the person who did this threat was yet, but we can make some educated guesses, and I think it's fair to do that, given the overwhelming amounts of evidence that I could provide that leads the conclusion to likely being a right-winger did this. Forbes goes on to also talk about this. A bomb threat at Boston Children's Hospital on Tuesday following weeks of harassment by right-wing influencers, including libs of TikTok and the Daily Caller. Also the Daily Wire, when it comes to Matt Walsh, who we will get to in a moment. Over the hospital's alleged treatment of trans youth, a sharp escalation in a growing campaign to target individuals and organizations that are perceived to work with LGBTQ causes. Article goes on to say, after receiving reports of a bomb threat, the Boston Police Department secured the perimeter of the hospital and sent in a bomb squad, but found no suspicious items. Thank God. The threat comes out of the hospital had to hire more security following an influx of, quote, hostile internet activity, phone calls, and harassing emails, including threats of violence toward our clinicians and staff, according to the medical center, which is ranked the best children's hospital in the nation. So we talked about this in the previous video, because the right wing, because conservatives literally don't have any policy to offer anybody. They have to focus on all of this anti-trans hysteria that they've whipped themselves up into a frenzy about, and have sunk to the level of literally threatening the best children's hospital in the nation for following the standards of care as it pertains to trans people. Surely a sign of a well-functioning and rational mind. The right-wing attack centered on the false claim Boston Children's Hospital provides hysterectomies to minors as a part of its transgender care, an allegation promoted in recent weeks by Libs of TikTok, whose Twitter account has more than 1 million followers. Chaya Raichik is the owner of that Libs of TikTok account, and picked up by several right-wing media sites, including the Daily Caller and the Post-Millennial, as well as prominent right-wing commentators. Both of these, by the way, the Daily Caller and the Post-Millennial, literally just rags. They have no credibility whatsoever. They've been repeatedly seen to be pushing just complete false bullshit. Literal fake news, if you want to use the term. Boston Children's, quote, does not and will not perform a hysterectomy as part of gender-affirming care on patients under the age of 18, the hospital said, while other independent outlets have also debunked the claim. Libs of TikTok did not immediately respond to requests for comment from Forbes. Imagine my fucking shock. She probably thinks that she got doxxed because a Forbes person DM'd her on Twitter and feared for her life. You know, see her on Tucker Carlson in the coming weeks to lament about how dangerous it is to have a Forbes correspondent reach out for comment. Reports also emerged this week that users of the far-right message board 4chan were attempting to clog up the hotline feed of a suicide crisis hotline operated by the Trevor Project, a non-profit organization providing suicide prevention services for LGBTQ youth that has also faced attack from libs of TikTok. 4chan did not respond to requests for... Why? The hacker known as 4chan. I imagine they mean the people in positions of power in 4chan. You know, the owner of the site. Just funny to write it that way. But yeah, we will be talking about that later on as well, because not only is the right so fucking deranged that they're going to go after the best children's hospital in the country and literally provoke the circumstances that lead to bomb threats and all manner of other threats being called on them, which would disrupt hospital services, but we'll get into that. Right-wing politicians and figures in recent months have also ramped up attacks in light of LGBTQ pride events, with one South Carolina congressional candidate, Mark Burns, an ally of former President Donald Trump, in June calling for the, quote, execution of parents and teachers who promote LGBTQ rights. That is true. That did happen. Also, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wants to make providing gender-affirming care to teens a Class C felony. Make it a Class C felony to follow the standards of care as it pertains to trans healthcare. Pretty cool. The easy answer to this, by the way, we've already gone through it. Not only do they don't think that trans people exist because they're delusional and they don't understand basic biology, nor do they understand basic sociology, they don't think trans people exist. But 2, if they do exist, they don't think that they should. And 3, they don't think that they should, and they want to do things to stop them from being able to, like getting access to trans healthcare. Or they would also like to attack literally the Trevor Project, which is meant to help LGBTQ people, in this case trans people, not commit suicide due to the horrible conditions that they're having to face, mostly because of the transphobia that has gone unaddressed and the rampant attacks on trans people that the right-wingers in the media have been pushing ad nauseum because they have nothing else to talk about, because they have nothing else to offer the American people. You'd imagine those people, you know, those trans people, especially trans youth, would not be in the best state of mind seeing their humanity being weaponized for political power and money. So obviously, the kind way that these right-wingers would want to go about making it so trans people don't exist is by essentially creating the conditions that lead to higher suicide rates, because statistically speaking, studies have shown that the things that right-wingers advocate for tend to increase rates of depression and suicidality in trans people and trans youth, meaning that their kindness for you is to create the conditions that lead you to take your own life, because worse comes to worse, they will probably, if they had the option, if they didn't find it to be politically inexpedient, do it themselves. Crucial quote, the Boston Children's Hospital said it will, quote, remain vigilant in our efforts to battle the spread of false information about the hospital and our caregivers, and it was committed to ensuring the hospital is a safe and secure place for all who work here and come here. The Trevor Project told Forbes, quote, attacking a crisis services line intended to prevent suicide among young people is egregious, adding it's harrowing that anybody would attempt to compromise our lifeline or encourage suicide. Yeah, but you haven't, met the average right-winger on the internet who's very excited to advocate that people take their own lives. Surprising fact, Stephen Miller, known white supremacist and senior advisor to former President Donald Trump, replied to a tweet from Liz of TikTok promoting the false conspiracy theory about Boston Children's Hospital, writing, quote, this is monstrous. How does anyone involved in this still have a medical license? Probably because they're following the standards of care and they aren't, suckered into this conspiracy theory that you seem to have been. The Boston Children's Hospital threat started after libs of TikTok posted a video on August 11th of a doctor at Boston Children's Hospital talking about gender-affirming hysterectomies, claimed the procedure was being offered to, quote, young girls, though the doctor did not say that the procedure was offered to children. The post has been retweeted by conservative influencers and liked thousands of times. The account, operated by Shia Rajik, shares anti-LGBTQ content and has become influential in conservative media. Some far-right Republicans in recent months have increasingly sought to restrict trans people's access to gender-affirming care, which includes a range of treatments such as hormone therapy and counseling. The care is recommended by several medical associations, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, for young people with gender dysphoria. Republican lawmakers have tried to clamp down on transgender youth participation in sports as well. Right-wing harassment of LGBTQ populations promoted on social media has also nearly escalated to violence. In June, authorities arrested 31 members of the white nationalist organization Patriot Front near a pride event in Idaho, alleging they planned to start a riot. Shocker, 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 shocker. So, here is some scenes from outside of Boston Children's Hospital, the #1 ranked children's hospital in the United States of America, who provide all manner of services to children, including treating children with cancer. So Oscar Margain writes, happening now. Boston police set up a perimeter around Boston Children's Hospital after a bomb threat was called. Bomb squad called in. They report no one hurt and are sweeping the building. So there's a video clip in this thread.
Kids coming in that are sick here trying to get to the hospital.
I'm afraid to leave. I don't know what's going on, and I have a child that's in the in the NICU.
Parents like Patricia MacArthur worried while waiting outside Boston's Children's Hospital Tuesday night as police set up a perimeter following a bomb threat.
And escort them up to the main entrance, okay? We are not shutting down this hospital.
So just in case any right-wingers are watching this, if you are masochists and really like your points being disproven over and over and over again by somebody that you think is subhuman, there are actual real-world impacts to the shit that you support and the things that people like you are doing. So just because no bomb is found, and we can get into that in a moment, doesn't mean that there isn't potential for harm, as we can see in this video.
Boston police say the bomb squad was called in to sweep the building on Longwood Avenue while officers taped off the streets, closing off access to the hospital.
I just want to make sure my kid's safe, and if anything's bad gonna happen, I'd rather be with him, you know? This is just, I'm not from around here, so it doesn't help that I'm here by myself, and I'm just really scared, and I don't know what's going on.
The soft lockdown lasted about 90 minutes before parents were allowed in.
Like, so do you really think that this mother deserves this? Because of your delusional thinking about trans people and the lies you've been fed in order to get you to give people money and votes instead of actually helping your life in any meaningful way. Now this mother is worrying that their kid in this hospital might be getting harmed in some way, and even go on to suggest that if there is an actual bomb going on, if there's something bad that's going to happen to her kid, she'd like to be there with him. Meaning that if it's a bomb in the hospital, she's ready to go down with her own kid. These are the people you affect. Trans people are an incredibly small proportion of the population. If you're going to attack a children's hospital over lies, proven lies, because they also treat trans people there and trans youth there, you're going to disproportionately impact people who do not have trans kids. Like, you have to understand that. There's no way people could be so dense as to think that this super hyper marginalized minority of people, trans people, not to mention trans youth, like, those are your targets, but you don't think you're going to get a whole bunch of other people. You can't hyper pinpoint precision strike, you know, these people.
I don't know what's going on.
The soft lockdown lasted about 90 minutes before parents were allowed in. The bomb threat follows a series of other threats made to the Children's Hospital 2 weeks ago, spurred by social media posts spreading misinformation, claiming the doctors were performing hysterectomies on children, a claim the hospital has repeatedly denied.
It would be really cool if they could actually say who those right-wing influencers are, but I understand why they wouldn't, mostly because they don't want to get, like, sued or whatever for false reporting if, like, it's difficult to actually confirm. But, like, we can easily intuit why this is happening, and we'll go on to see why. Of course, I wrote, big round of applause for Matt Walsh and Jaya Rachik. There could be so many other people I could put in this as well. Maybe you'll get those kids with cancer next time. And luckily for us all, later that morning, Matt Walsh actually responded. Last night, thousands of idiot leftists were absurdly blaming me and libs of TikTok for a bomb threat at Boston. I don't know why I'm making him sound like Ben Shapiro. Like, his voice is so fucking boring, as is his entire personality, as is his entire career, that I guess, like, making fun of Ben Shapiro's voice, I mean, they're essentially the same person as well. They have the same beliefs, it's just that Matt Walsh is more mask off about it. He kind of, you know, treads the rougher waters and says some more outlandish shit, and then Ben Shapiro will take from that what things he thinks he can get away with saying while appearing to be this respectable intellectual. They're essentially the same person. They don't believe in anything. They just want power, money, and to, you know, cause people to suffer. Today, the story has disappeared. It didn't, by the way. Because people quickly determined the whole thing was a false alarm. I don't expect we'll get any apologies, though. And the clip here says, police respond to bomb threat at Boston Children's Hospital. The threat was ruled a false alarm. So the next question is, what the fuck do you think a false alarm is, Matt Walsh, in your tiny little brain? I know you've got a deformed skull because you don't have a chin and you use your beard to hide that. Surely there's enough space in there for the average size of a human brain. You might be able to figure it out. What do you think a false alarm means? Does that mean that it was literally, like, there was no call that was made? Because I think that's what he thinks that means. And if it isn't, then you want people to apologize to you because there wasn't actually a bomb found? Like, are you mad that there wasn't a bomb found? I'm asking questions. I'm genuinely curious. So to answer the question, because I've got at least more than 2 brain cells to rub together, a false alarm means that there was an alarm that was raised as a result of the bomb threat that somebody put in. The police were called, and then they came to Boston Children's Hospital to investigate it, to sweep the building for any potential bombs, determined that there weren't any, thank God, and then declared that the call was a false alarm, meaning that the alarm is rendered false after the threat doesn't lead to material bombs being found there. That's what that means. It doesn't mean no call was made. Like, this seems to suggest that he thinks it was a hoax. But oh wait, there's more. I would like to know what false alarm means exactly. Police are being coy about it. Plenty of reasons to wonder whether false alarm really means a leftist hoax. Certainly lots of precedent for that. When? Where? When has that happened? When has there been a leftist hoax? When has there been a leftist who has posed as a right-winger? Next question. Why do you not bring up the myriad other examples of right-wingers doing this shit? Like the people who assassinated Dr. Tiller the baby killer, after Bill O'Reilly called him that. I think more than 40 times on his program, a fucking deranged right-winger ended up going and killing the doctor. Or, you know, the people who have firebombed abortion clinics over the lies spread by right-wingers in the media. Or, you know, the Christchurch shooter who has cited, like, disgusting right-wingers like Lauren Southern on the internet. Or, like, the Boston shooter who literally traveled miles out of his way to a predominantly black areas to kill black people because he believed in the Great Replacement conspiracy theory that Tucker Carlson likes to talk about a lot, the most popular news show on TV. You gotta wonder, really, where is the precedent for this? You absolute lunatic. Like, there's no coherent thoughts being expressed here. There's nothing actually going on in this man's brain. Like, you're met with the objective reality, the result of people being potentially inspired by your rhetoric, as all of the examples I've shown previous. This one, we don't know exactly yet who made the call. Hopefully we find out, but it's not really that difficult to put two and two together. And, you know, high likelihood that it was a right-winger spurred on by the anti-trans hate campaign that's been going on for multiple weeks by people like Matt Walsh and Libs of TikTok. But you have to, when met with that reality, Matt Walsh has to immediately turn to conspiracy because there's no other option for him. Reality does not agree with transphobic people, with fascists, with right-wingers, with conservatives. It doesn't. So they have to turn to an alternate reality that more conforms to their feelings, because to actually engage in the one that we live in would, one, prove them to be wrong, and two, hurt their little feelings. And we wouldn't want to have that now, would we? We wouldn't want to have trans people simply living their lives, not hurting anybody, because Matt Walsh might see a trans person who's actually a cis woman but thinks that they're a trans woman and then get mad for some reason. If there really was a threat, but no bomb, they wouldn't call it a false alarm. They literally would, you stupid fuck. The alarm is raised because of the threat. No bomb is found, so then the alarm is now false. They would still be trying to track down the culprit. Where's the evidence that they're not? Clearing the scene in 2 hours and calling it a false alarm almost certainly means there was no threat at all, which still leaves question. What are you talking about, man? I thought Matt Walsh was a thin blue line support. I thought he was going to suck a hero cop's dick live on camera just to show how much he cares about the boys in the blue. But you're going to think that the police can't be so efficient as to clear the children's hospital that you have been very excited about maligning on your program of the bombs that may or may not be there? You really think that the cops don't have the capacity to do that with the millions and millions and millions of dollars they get and all this high-tech military hand-me-down equipment they get? Come on. Have a little bit more faith for our boys in blue. I just read more details. Police arrived on the scene at 9:20 and had cleared by 10 o'clock. 40 minutes, becoming increasingly clear there was never any threat. Yeah, because it was a fallacious call meant to disrupt services at a children's hospital. The intended goal is this: a hospital being shut down, though luckily they didn't have to fully shut down, as far as I'm aware. But here's the thing, here's the kicker, you know, here's the fun part for Matt Walsh. It doesn't really matter that there was no bomb found if you want to analyze the situation and see where harm could be caused. Because any disruption of service, be it a power outage, you know, all the staff getting sick even, any disruption of service at a hospital, much less a children's hospital, can lead to all manner of harm. You have patients who need constant monitoring that, if they have to move them out of their hospital room, might cause complications. You have people who might have trauma or anxiety who could be having panic attacks as a result of this. You could have people who need to be in specific areas where the equipment is not as easy to move around for whatever condition that they have. Also, you're literally just traumatizing all manner of fucking sick children. So even if no bomb is found, call me crazy, I'm pretty sure most reasonable people, hopefully you watching, would agree that somebody threatening to bomb a children's hospital is not a good thing under any circumstance. Even if the police are very expedient in clearing the hospital, making sure there's no bomb there, and then calling a false alarm within 40 minutes. In my view, the fact that it took 40 minutes is worrying, because if it took longer than that, or even that amount of time, like I say, all manner of harm could already be done to a fucking children's hospital. So to buttress the point of how libs of TikTok and Matt Walsh, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these people who push consistent lies and conspiracy theory about trans people could lead to potential harm, well, here is Aaron Reed, once again, go follow, with an exceptional thread on the matter. You need to understand the libs of TikTok stochastic terrorism. Libs of TikTok and orbiters have weaponized violent extremists against LGBTQ plus people for months. She calls targets and they answer. Now Boston Children's Hospital gets death threats. Here's how she operates. And this is actually before the bomb threat. So this is a bit old by a bit aged. You gotta amend this one, Aaron. What are you doing? She already has. Over the course of the last week, so this is August 17th, Libs of TikTok has posted dozens of tweets that target Boston Children's Hospital for providing gender-affirming care to trans teens within all medical association and WPATH guidelines. She continues even after knowing they are getting violent threats. It's almost like she's somewhat okay with that happening. You get all the examples of the tweets here. I'll link to these in the description if you don't want to miss any of these, if you want to investigate yourself. We saw this video in the previous video we did of this, the conservatives are a danger to children one, and with this most recent bomb threat, you can definitely see how that's actually perhaps more true than we thought. Shia Reichik, the person who runs Libs of TikTok, has orbiters that push her content to similar audiences. Here, Matt Walsh amplifies the message attacking Boston Children's Hospital. The result is extremely predictable, thanks to Media Matters for this clip. So essentially, we already looked at it. Matt Walsh talks about all manner of deranged conspiracy theory, reality bending bullshit that no reasonable person should ever actually believe. And then CNN goes on to show that Boston Children's Hospital is being targeted with all manner of threats. Shockingly. Who could have seen this coming? But this is not the first time Shia has weaponized violent extremists. She has a very, very long history of doing so. I will document the examples here. So this is a great video for people who are always saying, oh my god, all Libs of TikTok does is she posts the actual words of these people. She's essentially doing advertising for these people because she's just posting their TikToks and that's it. That's not it, you stupid fuck. I don't know why you gotta lie to make your point. If you actually had a point, you wouldn't have to. She certainly does more than simply repost clips from TikTok with nothing else added. Let's start with several months ago, she attacked Dornbecker Children's Hospital. I feel like I just knocked that pronunciation out of the park, by the way, but I could be wrong. For teaching trans teens how to tuck safely, which, you would imagine is an important thing to learn how to do if you're a trans teen, and especially if you don't want to be subject to any kind of transphobic violence for people seeing you as wearing women's clothing when they can identify that you might have certain body parts that they shouldn't be able to see and you wouldn't want them to see. That's a little bit too much for Libs of TikTok. She doesn't understand any of that, because I don't think she understands much, except how to grift money out of people on the internet and cause people to get hurt. It's pretty cool, I think. Definitely something that should stay on the Twitter website and app. Direct threats followed in replies to the post from Libs of TikTok against Dornbecker's Children's Hospital on Twitter's platform. Twitter did nothing. These tweets are still up. Now, I will say, this is from August 17th. Apparently, Libs of TikTok has been suspended for a week. This was before the bomb threat on Boston Children's Hospital. So maybe Twitter could get its head out of its ass and just ban Libs of TikTok entirely, because it doesn't seem anything good comes from that account. It seems like the only thing that results from that account is people getting hurt and also deranged right-wingers falling deeper and deeper into the conspiracy pits that ruins their fucking minds. Literally nothing of value to be gained other than maybe a little bit of extra internet traffic because Libs of TikTok gets on Tucker Carlson to bitch and moan about an investigator showing up to ask her questions about a story they're running like investigators have always done. Leave the white women tears aside for a moment. It's not really good, and I don't know why Twitter hasn't acted further. I don't know why you would only do a week-long suspension. We need to establish a base mafia to go and deal with this shit firsthand. I don't know why I'm making everybody Ben Shapiro in this video. So, I also like to do the CONURE voice, but I feel like it's kind of unfortunate because there are, lefties and non-insane people in the South who would have that kind of an accent. So I'm trying to not use it in this way as much. Fuck it. Vigilante justice is the only solution for these people. I wouldn't be surprised if someone hit these people. This is extremely perverse. I hate these people, man. In an exclusive, I obtained an email from an employee showing that the hospital did receive harassment. I'm told that the situation was tense. This did not get reported on at the time, but it would become one in a long line of events like this. Shocking, shocking, shocking. On May 13th, Libs of TikTok reported that the Kiel School District in Kiel, Wisconsin was the site of a Title IX lawsuit because a transgender kid was bullied and harassed. She blasted it to her million followers. The principal was harassed and deleted their account. I also talked about this in a previous video as well. I actually forget which one it is because this shit is happening all the time and it's always the same shit from these deranged psychopaths on the right that, you know, I can only remember so much. Direct violent threats followed in the replies to the post of the Libs of TikTok against Kiel School District in Wisconsin on Twitter's platform. Twitter did nothing. These tweets are still up. When do people start pushing back on this dystopia? Now, Lamal, stop taking the moral high ground like conservatives always do and start bullying them and assaulting them. It's way past time parents started pushing back. And by pushing back, I mean putting the fear of God into these teachers and school boards. They won't stop until they're faced with losing everything. Probably getting death threats from you very sane and rational lot. Still don't agree with what he did and believe this will be thrown out expeditiously. As he should. Like, I don't know, man. Like, how can these people be the good people? Like, how can you see yourself on the side of these fucking degenerates and be like, oh yeah, well, we're actually fighting for what's righteous. The result of Libs of TikTok's targeted harassment of Kiel, Wisconsin, and a principal there, a town that was paralyzed by bomb threats. Oh, that's a bit synonymous with the current story we've been going over. And all schools shut down until they closed the Title IX investigation early over the threats. So they did unfortunately capitulate to the threats of the literal terrorists threatening to bomb the school. Very cool. Definitely not something that you should be worried about. On June 7th, Libs of TikTok fired off several tweets on Coeur d'Alene's Pride Festival in Idaho. She said that Satanic Temple was a sponsor. Direct violent threats followed in replies to the post of Libs of TikTok against Coeur d'Alene's Pride Festival in Idaho on Twitter's platform. Twitter did nothing. These tweets are still up. What is this LARPy bullshit from Haha Venus on Twitter? What, am I supposed to read this like a pirate? Yahar. What you'd be needing is to raise at once the black flag and show no quarter to these wretched fools. Better yet, best to raise the red flag and giving them both no quarter and no mercy. What is this LARPy bullshit, man? Come on, get serious. The result of Libs of TikTok's targeted harassment of the Pride Parade in Coeur d'Alene, a U-Haul full of Patriot Front members, remember that, were unloaded by police a block away with intent to cause violence at the Pride Festival. So unfortunately for these Patriot Front nerds, they had all manner of weapons confiscated and they were heading to a Pride Parade. They very obviously weren't just there to counter-protest. On May 30th, just before Pride, Libs of TikTok targeted a slew of family-friendly Pride events, story hours, etc. Among them, this one in San Lorenzo. We also covered this one, I think. There's been so many. How could you cover them all? There are so many right-wing terrorists that the GOP CPAC actually said that they were all domestic terrorists. Like, they're just admitting it. So obviously they're saying it in jest, like, oh, if the left is going to call us domestic terrorists, then we're just going to own it. Because I guess we all, like, I understand what's being done here. I understand they're supposed to be saying it in jest, ironically. But it's not really ironic if you're actually doing it. I don't think.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are all domestic terrorists. Please.
Like, this shit hits different if you actually understand stories like the assassination of Dr. Tiller, stories like the fire bombings of Planned Parenthoods and abortion clinics, like the bomb threats that have been levied at a school district to drop a Title IX investigation, or the bomb threat on literally the most popular children's hospital in the country. Kind of hits a little bit different, you know? Direct violent threats followed in replies to the post of Libs of TikTok against family-friendly Pride events on Twitter's platform. Twitter nothing. Same old story. The result of Libs of TikTok's targeted harassment for the family-friendly Pride events and drag queen story hours, a storming of multiple libraries with violent threats in front of children. Here's a video of the one mentioned above. So we've already gone through this one as well. This shirt says kill your local pedophile on it with an AR. And these people literally show up calling a family-friendly drag queen event, calling the drag queen a groomer and pedophile. If you have a shirt that says kill your local pedophile and then you go and basically claim that somebody is a pedophile, it kind of, you know, you're not really leaving a little bit to the imagination there. You're kind of stating your intent on your, you know, wearing it on your sleeve if you were. There are so many more examples. On July 4th, Libs of TikTok blasted a Jewish summer camp over accepting trans campers immediately after they were forced to hire extra security because of threats. And the list goes on. The list literally goes on. I don't know how much more you need to show you that these people on the right are not well. There's something going on in their minds that is leading them to do this. Because not all these people are getting money from that. Sure, Libs of TikTok's getting money from it. Matt Walsh is getting money from it. Tucker Carlson's getting money from it. Marjorie Taylor Greene's winning elections from it. You know what I mean? They're gaining from that. But the other people on the internet and in real life aren't getting anything from it. How is this improving your life at all? How is this helping literally anybody? Now, of course, they would say because of the lies and conspiracy they believe, they think they're actually helping people when they're objectively not. But like, after all of this, if you still believe in these lies that people like this will tell you, you're still poor. You're still working for no goddamn money, being overworked, having no time to yourself. You're still in medical debt because you got sick. You're still crushed under the weight of your student loans for the crime of trying to get a better education. Well, maybe actually not, now that Brandon has relieved some of that. Not enough, in my opinion. Like, you're still suffering. You're still having to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. This is an actual plea from me to shake some fucking sense into you, man. Like, if I was in front of you right now, I'd slap you. Now, I know the majority of people watching this already agree with me, but like, if on the off chance that anybody is, and I'm sure that people are, there are people that hate watch me, like, come on, you're better than this. You are not as dumb as these politicians think you are. I don't believe that. I think you have the capacity to not be as fucking stupid as these politicians think you are. So, going back to the Boston Children's Hospital, the best children's hospital in the United States, being, bomb-threaded as a result of the weeks-long harassment campaign led by people like Matt Walsh and libs at TikTok. Alejandro Carvalho on Twitter, the denial stage is stochastic terrorism. When presented with the reality of the consequences of their rhetoric, these schools project, blame others, and double down on attacking the targets. This is Christina Buttons, who apparently writes for the Post-Millennial, a literal rag. Literally nothing of value to be seen. The people who brought attention to Boston Children's and genital surgeries they allowed on minors did so out of concern for the well-being of children. They would not bomb or nor threaten to bomb a hospital. My money is on a deranged leftist desperate to keep libs of TikTok banned. Yes, man. Yes, totally. The people who support Boston Children's Hospital rendering healthcare to all kids, not just trans youth, are the ones who called in the threat that caused the hospital to have to interrupt service for 40 minutes. Luckily, it wasn't longer than that, while the police made sure there was no actual bomb there. Totally, man, just to keep libs of TikTok. Like, is that really more convincing to you? After all of this that we've read, is that really more convincing to you? This slew of evidence of what seems to be the result of the rhetoric from the right wing, it's more likely to you that a leftist who wants to keep libs of TikTok banned did it. It's conspiracy theory. There's nothing here. It's literally fan fiction. They are writing fan fiction about real life because they can't deal with the actual reality we live in. They're literally delusional. Not content with stoking a bomb threat against the Children's Hospital, now Christina Buttons going after a suicide hotline for LGBTQ youth. So a common one nowadays, apparently multiple instances of this happening. There is absolutely no reason for this other than she wants LGBTQ youth to commit suicide and die. True, that is the kindness that they offer. If they could do it themselves, they would. These people are absolute sociopaths. Trevor Project, an organization that purports itself to be an LGBT youth, quote-unquote, suicide prevention nonprofit, operates the online community forum Trevor Space, where adults instruct children on how to hide their transition from parents. Yeah. You want to know why they instruct children to hide their transition from their parents? Because those kids, the youth involved here, know their identity better than their parents, very obviously. And also, those kids, their parents probably don't accept their identity. Probably don't like gay people, queer people, trans people in general existing to begin with. And certainly don't want their kid to be that. So when it turns out that their kid is that, which is outside of the control of the parents, then those kids are subject to all manner of abuse. We've talked about this on stream ad nauseum. Verbal abuse, physical abuse, being kicked out of the house. The rates of LGBTQ youth being homeless, very big example of that. Literal murder of their own flesh and blood as well has also happened. So you gotta wonder why it is that the youth who would be interested in the Trevor Project, which is focused on suicide prevention for LGBTQ youth, might be interested in hiding their transition from their parents. Maybe. Given the actual studies and data that we've seen that have shown that with more accepting parents, local community, and access to healthcare, rates of depression and suicidality in LGBTQ youth go down drastically. Thing is, people like, this don't seem to like that fact. They would like the opposite to happen, which is why they don't want the Trevor Project to be able to operate, because they want LGBTQ youth to take their own lives. I don't know what, there's no other logical explanation for this. If they are calling a suicide line, it's probably because of their parents. Yeah, like the people they live with not being good people to them. Shocking, that might lead somebody to think of taking their own life. So I was curious. So it seems like For Matt Walsh, ooh, plenty of reason to wonder whether false alarm really means leftist hoax. If we go to the thread that I did on it, it's so many people, assumed fans of Matt Walsh or right-wingers in general, giving me this shit as well. This is the line now. Now that this has happened and it looks very bad for the right wing, ooh, it was the left, it was the left. It was like Jan 6 happened. Everybody was super excited. So many people were on social media being like, yo, I'm at the Capitol. Yo, what's up? Literally live streaming themselves, known Trump supporters and right-wingers. Eventually, it doesn't end up working, the coup attempt. So then it's, oh, it's Antifa, it's Antifa. It was the left. It wasn't actually. Even though the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, or the 3%ers, or whatever fucking degenerate militia group it was, were breaching it first. Surely, you know, the leftist Proud Boys, right? We got this fucking idiot with the what is a woman avatar. FBI or NPR. Surely it was a false flag from the FBI. You know, the same FBI who is currently investigating your daddy, Donald Trump. I bet Antifa called it in. Like, I'm sorry. I can't take the shit seriously. Unfortunately, it is a bunch of fucking whomegalols on Twitter. A bunch of no-names. But Jesus Christ, if the actual man himself, Matt Walsh, is saying similar shit, you gotta wonder where they heard it from. So this person replied, said, man, that's fucked up. The only reason I have the ability to see right now is because of a surgery performed at Boston Children's when I was a kid. Yeah, shockingly, this is the best children's hospital in the United States for a reason. Jussie Smollett did this. For those of you who don't know, Jussie Smollett has been proven to have faked a hate crime that he alleged happened to him. That's what that is, so they're saying it's fake. This was fake. Get it right. There was no one there. The threat was still made, you fucking dumbass. Probably some lefties pulling a FF, a forfeit, I guess. They're the one, or false flag. No, never mind. Sorry, I'm playing video games too much. They're the ones swatting everybody. Literally when? When has this ever happened? There has literally never been evidence provided that the left has ever swatted anybody. But there is a mountain of evidence and even an entire fucking website that is dedicated to just that is full of right-wingers, full of neo-Nazis, full of fascists. Wow. This is the meme. Like, this is conservatism to a T, I guess, if we're here. We gotta engage in a little medics to get through to some people. This is conservatism. You ask them, like, can you actually substantiate the claims you're making? And it's, I made it the fuck up. See also Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which, by the way, I played before. It was cool. All the way back when it was first ported to the PC. So they shouldn't report what hospitals are doing? They literally threatened to bomb the hospital. The hospital itself and its staff were inundated with threats and had to hire extra security as a result of the harassment campaigns that Matt Walsh, Libs of TikTok, etc., have been pushing. So they're not simply reporting on what hospitals are doing, because otherwise shit like this wouldn't be happening. You're on glue. It's always the left doing these threats. Literally nothing to substantiate that. And, you know, all and on and on and on and on. We all know how this works. There's a good chance it's bullshit designed by the hospital. Could be an angry parent too, so is it justified? What are you talking about, man? They're literally writing fan fiction about real life. Because it'll turn out to be a bitter and psychotic leftist who's trying to frame someone else. What are you talking about? Literally delusional. These people are not right in the head. It's all conspiracy theory. Speaking of, we've already talked about, I don't know, I feel like I could have done that segue better. We've already talked about the Institute for Sexual Health, which was founded by Magnus Hirschfeld, a gay Jewish man in Germany, where the first vaginoplasty was done, where all manner of gender and trans healthcare and study was archived. Some of the first books the Nazis burned were on trans healthcare and queer sexuality and the healthcare related to it in general. So the Institute of Sexuality was an early private sexology research institute in Germany from 1919 to 1933. The institute was a non-profit foundation situated in Tiergarten, Berlin. It was headed by Magnus Hirschfeld, who since 1897 had run the Scientific Humanitarian Committee, which campaigned on progressive and rational grounds for LGBT rights and tolerance, all the way back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The Nazi book burnings in Berlin included the archives of the Institute. After the Nazis gained control of Germany in the 1930s, the Institute and its libraries were destroyed as a part of the Nazi government censorship program by youth brigades who burned its books and documents in the street. So at its very core, the Nazis, literal fascists, white supremacists, are not big fans of trans people, are not big fans of gay people, are not big fans of queer people in general. Why else would they burn as some of the first books related to these things? At its core, transphobia got a lot of anti-Semitism. A lot of it. You can notice this in a lot of very small ways as well. We've got an article here from progressive.org, Progressive Magazine. Anti-Semitism meets transphobia. White nationalists and anti-trans feminists use the same conspiracies to target trans and Jewish folks. Trans rights protesters gathered in North Carolina to protest a bill that would prevent doctors from performing gender confirmation surgery for transgender people younger than 21. This came out April 28th, 2021. You know, time is a flat circle. We live in an age of conspiracy theories. In the wake of the January 6th insurrection in the U.S. Capitol, with movements like QAnon on the rise, it's clear that millions across the United States subscribe to theories that a diabolical cabal of elites is secretly controlling society, and that they are willing to take violent action against these imagined enemies. These types of conspiracy theories have long been a cornerstone of antisemitism, which insists that this cabal is Jewish. And today they're seeping into anti-transgender activism as well. Now more than ever, antisemitism and transphobia are becoming deeply connected, making it vital for progressives to fight both together, as we do on this channel. And that's also included in intersectionality, by the way, because of course Judaism is a religion, but there's a lot of racialized components to the anti-Semitism involved. On the radical right, white nationalists are obsessed with fears of quote-unquote white genocide. Imagine, like, what a fucking snowflake you have to be to believe this conspiracy theory. They imagine fast-approaching biological extinction of the white race, quote-unquote, which doesn't exist, and are convinced that Jewish activism is the prime mover of this existential threat. One of the main ways they believe Jews advance, quote-unquote, white genocide is in addition to engineering increased immigration of black and brown people, orchestrating racial justice movements, controlling the government and giant corporations, using space lasers to start California wildfires. That's a fun little callback to yeehaw! Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's my woman right there. And other dastardly schemes is by liberalizing societal attitudes around gender and sexuality in colleges and universities, media, and other cultural institutions. In order to, quote, secure, this is literally just the 14 words of white supremacy, which I will not be reciting on this program. As their slogan goes, white nationalists believe they must defend a status quo rooted in patriarchal violence, undergirded by cis heteronormative gender roles, straight white nuclear families, a culture of warrior masculinity, and more. From Jews who foster feminism, LGBTQ+ liberation movements, and multiculturalism to undermine the, quote, natural order. Movements for transgender justice, white nationalists believe, represent a key cultural front of Jewish-backed, quote-unquote, white genocide. Like, you could see how much of a pussy you have to be to believe this, right? Like, no reasonable human being should be in a position to believe literally any of this. You have to be subject to constant, frequent indoctrination and propaganda to even begin to start to think that some of these ideas are in any way probable, let alone possible. But that is what's required to be transphobic in the current context of what we've been talking about. Conspiratorial thinking. It is an inherent aspect of transphobia, as this article is going on to provide more information for. Quote, by undermining the meaning of what it is to be male and female, white nationalist Andrew Joyce put it in 2015 article published on the movement publication Occidental Observer. Quote, one undermines the healthy concept of the family, and when the healthy concept of the family is assessed by a given group is undermined, the group is pushed even closer to being the victims of... While prominent Jewish transgender activists like Jazz Jennings and Jennifer Pritzker and Jewish-themed shows like Transparent serve as one face of this imagined conspiracy, white nationalists believe the real power is wielded behind the scenes by Jewish billionaires, talent managers, media and entertainment, executives, journalists, and advocacy groups like the Anti-Defamation League. They think the shadow network is working patiently to normalize transgender acceptance in popular culture. Oh, that's an interesting Freudian slip. As another Occidental Observer writer put it, quote, the stunningly disproportionate Jewish involvement in the transgender rights movement reveals as yet another form of Jewish... It's so absurd. Like, it would be hilarious if it wasn't so fucking deadly. This Jewish activism, they are convinced, is laser focused on attacking white Western society at its most vulnerable and sacrosanct point, the sexuality of children. Because conservatives are thinking about the sexuality of children quite a bit, actually, as it would turn out. See also the recent interest in spanking in schools, corporal punishment of children that, you know, conservatives and right-wingers have actually been supporting. Big fans of child abuse, it would seem. As Henrik Palmgren, leader of the white nationalist multimedia company Red Ice, said in 2015, the Jewish parents of Jazz Jennings, by supporting their young daughter to become a trailblazing advocate for trans empowerment and acceptance, were enacting, quote, one of the most disturbing agendas the Zionist elite have ever created. This attempt at, quote, normalizing the abnormal, Palmgren wrote, quote, will sacrifice the physical and mental health of numerous children for decades to come. Source, crackpipe.jpg. Like the QAnon conspiracy, these myths of an elite cabal preying on children carry glaring resonances to the blood libel, the medieval European Christian lie that Jews murdered Christian children and used their blood to bake matzo during the Jewish holiday of Passover. Like, literally insane, even all the way back then, holy fuck. White supremacists have found allies among anti-transgender feminists, also known as TERFs, which we'll get to a lot more in the coming part of this segment, or trans-exclusionary radical feminists who are similarly convinced that transgender activism is part of a Jewish plot to, quote, override biological sex with the amorphous concept of gender identity. Ay, man. So these are ostensibly, these gender criticals are ostensibly feminists, They are for equality for not only women, but all gender identities, ostensibly. That's what they say. However, they seem to find themselves on the same side as people like Matt Walsh, who literally believe that women should be property, should be second-class citizens. J.K. Rowling actually got into a little bit of a spat on Twitter over her seemingly agreeing with Matt Walsh or vice versa when it came to trans people. A lot of people got on her ass for that, rightfully so. Even people that like her. Evidence of anti-Semitism by anti-trans quote-unquote feminists is present throughout its academic history. In 1979, Janice Raymond referred to transgender men as the, quote, final solution of women. In her book, The Transsexual Empire, often cited as the basis for anti-trans feminism. Super cool, you know? Anti-Semitism just seems to be part and parcel with transphobia. It's a wonder why neo-Nazis, the far right, fascists, and even conservatives are so excited to be transphobic, right? Surely there's no reason to peek under the hood on that one. In 2018, anti-trans feminist pundit Jennifer Bilek wrote a column for The Federalist in which she claimed to expose the, quote, rich white men institutionalizing transgender ideology. Bilek's essay named several prominent progressive Jewish funders, including George Soros, shocker, Jennifer Pritzker, Martine Rothblatt, and John Streicher. This article and similar articles Bilek has written for other right-wing publications have spread the conspiracy theory deep within anti-trans feminist movements. So, imagine my shock that a bunch of so-called feminists that literally are just conservatives who hate women, started out with anti-Semitism, but also are being egged on and supported by other anti-Semites and right-wingers in general. Well, you have to imagine that neo-Nazis, fascists, etc. understand that this is a useful thing they can weaponize. Matt Walsh does this constantly. By weaponizing TERFs, trans-exclusionary radical feminists, they can say that, oh, even real women agree with us about our anti-trans views. That's literally the only reason they ever ally with TERFs. That's it. They don't actually give a fuck about women. People like Matt Walsh don't care about women. They are going to be on the side of women so much as they can use them as an object to further their political gain, their monetary gain. And then once they get what they want when it comes to trans people, while they're simultaneously attacking women's rights as well, like even cis women's rights, you know, they will continue to full throttle attack that shit as well. You know, maybe it's a coping mechanism on the side of these TERFs that the right wing is focusing on trans people rather than cis women. But that's not even actually true, considering the overturn of Roe v. Wade and everything we've seen from that. It's all very sad. How much more is there to this? Jesus. It's like so much good information that I don't want to skip any of it. We're already an hour in. We still got some more to go. On her own blog, The 11th Hour, Bilek furthers the, quote, Jewish funder conspiracy theories, claiming that Rothblatt and Pritzker are behind a, quote, transhumanist movement, not only to erase women, but ultimately to morph the human species Matrix style into a terrifying techno-globalist future. What are we talking about, man? Like, I don't understand it. How is the public consciousness not aware of how fucking batshit insane transphobes are? Now, I will say, it's not definitely all people who have, like, some amount of, like, internalized or, like, unknowing transphobia that they engage with, right? Because there could just be people who don't know any better, who might be misgendering by accident, all blah, blah. I'm not saying literally every single person who does anything transphobic is literally also anti-Semitic. I'm saying that the ones that are majorly pushing for anti-trans shit more than likely either are being affected by anti-Semitism or are anti-Semitic themselves. And also just generally speaking conspiracy theorists, because you have to be a conservative in the modern day. And probably always, frankly. Bilek isn't the only contemporary anti-trans or quote-unquote gender-critical feminist, as some activists are calling themselves, who openly expresses anti-Semitism. In 2018, Jen Isaacson erased the history of genocide of transgender people and the destruction of decades of research into the transgender health during the Holocaust to discredit people using the term TERF. In 2019, prominent British anti-trans feminist Kelly J. Keane, also known as Posey Parker, joined Canadian white nationalist J.F. Garriepi, the "It's love, you idiot."
That's called love, you idiot.
Guy. A lot of fun stuff going on with that dude. Definitely nothing to look into there. On his podcast to talk about anti-trans activism, Krista Peterson, a PhD student of philosophy at the University of Southern California, has extensively researched the spread of anti-Semitic rhetoric within anti-trans feminist circles. She says anti-trans ideology has, quote, solidified over time into embracing more explicit conspiracy theories. Quote, today this rhetoric provides an entry point into far-right politics. Shockingly, right? And you have to know that right-wingers understand this. They understand that they can weaponize so-called TERFs and essentially try to red pill people who think they're actually being feminists because these other feminists, the TERFs, you know, are saying all this stuff. And then they slowly try to red pill them further and further into their far-right conspiracy theories. But when you add a legitimization engine on top of the conspiracy theory with people affiliated with universities or with degrees in higher education promoting these ideas, there's a real danger they can move further mainstream. And it seems like they have. This is an article from 2021. In a March 2nd opinion piece, former New York Times columnist and supposed anti-Semitism expert Barry Weiss echoed the anti-Semitic, quote, cultural Marxism, which is literally just a rebranded cultural Bolshevism that the Nazis were very excited to talk about. Also pushed by people like Jordan Peterson a lot, claiming that, quote, feminists who believe there are biological differences between men and women are being oppressed by a, quote, zealous cabal that has control of nearly all of the institutions that produce American cultural and intellectual life. A fucking loser. In the United Kingdom, meanwhile, oh, Jesus Christ, speaking of, we're getting to Joanne soon enough. Researchers have noted that anti-trans rhetoric is fixated upon a, quote, children's blood cult, children sacrificed to appease trans lobby. What are we talking about, man? And a, quote, intentional, all-powerful, wealthy, and totally out-of-control trans lobby. Like, if you don't see the anti-Semitic overtones, I was going to say undertones, but overtones in this, holy shit. British conspiracy theorist David Icke, who has long held that global politics are run by a cabal of lizard people, which is literally just rebranded anti-Semitic tropes from the Nazis, once again, shocker, shocker, recently claimed that these lizard people are in turn run by a cabal of transgender people, a connection Icke has cited approvingly. And it's not just pundits or activists. In 2019, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro claimed in a speech to the United Nations that gender ideology, quote, was installed in the field of culture, education, and the media. I'm making him sound like Dave Rubin because Dave Rubin's kind of a fan of Bolsonaro. In an effort to, quote, destroy the essence of our children, perverting even their most basic and elementary identity, the biological one. See also Vladimir Putin. See also Orban in Hungary, who have all talked about gender ideology in some capacity, obviously in the negative. Similar conspiracies are trafficked by right-wing Christian leaders in Poland and elsewhere. These trends fuel institutionalized discrimination and state violence against trans communities around the world. Today, conspiracy theories targeting Jewish and trans folks invert reality, demonizing marginalized communities as if they were all-powerful oppressors. One of the key aspects of fascism, the enemy is simultaneously all-powerful but also feckless and weak. It was the Jews then, still kind of is now for a lot of these people. While allowing those who actually perpetuate oppression to cast themselves as victims of the quote-unquote cabal. In our era of creeping authoritarianism, conspiracies casting elite cabals as sinister enemies of, quote, the people are on the rise across many sectors of society. This isn't surprising. Authoritarianism relies on those it governs believing they are being protected from something even worse than the authoritarians who govern them, which is like inherently submissive and also kind of masochistic, by the way. Because the people who are existing under these authoritarian regimes are not doing very well either. Like, the out group is doing even worse, obviously, but the actual citizens that are not the out group are not doing very well either. So you're made to be content with bad living conditions because at least it's not as bad as those other people, the trans people, the Jewish people. It's like a defeatist, cowardly mindset. Conspiracy theories about a shadowy cabal behind trans activism are not only anti-Semitic, they're also transphobic and racist, erasing the powerful grassroots organizing of trans folks, especially trans people of color. Despite cloaking the rhetoric under the guise of plausible deniability and finger-wagging at the supposed excesses of, quote, wokeness, anti-trans activists are lifting their conspiracies from familiar far-right arsenal and are comfortably aligned with white nationalists in their choice of the enemies they name. Forget lizard people and transhumanists, the real threat to democracy comes from those who point to the monster under the bed while begging you to ignore the fire they just set to the curtains. True. Very true. This is a good-ass article as well from Ben Lorber and Heron Greensmith. Very good. So, for some more fun stuff and also just really sad stuff, I've been aware that anti-Semitism underpins a lot of transphobic rhetoric, but I was also interested in the conspiratorial thinking in general around transphobia, and I think the transvestigators on the internet are like one of the biggest examples of this. Of like how insane you become if you get really deep into transphobia. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like you could very easily classify not only just all bigotry, but in this case, transphobia as a kind of mental illness, especially in regards to how badly it can impact your own life, which we'll go over at the end of this, where we've got a bunch of parents who are literally lamenting the loss of their children just because their children happen to be trans. So this person on Twitter, what, this is obviously this person from the UK. The UK, bruv. Everywhere I go, I see women with no butts, big shoulders, and brow ridges. This is not a good accent. What am I doing? Man with big butts, sloping shoulders, and pretty... Sorry. Fuck. I can't... It's too late for that. I can't be doing... It's 2 a.m. I can't be doing accents right now. It's not possible. Everywhere I go, I see women with no butts, big shoulders, and brow ridges. Men with big butts, sloping shoulders, and pretty eyes. Real men and women seem scarce. So we've got a picture of two random strangers, seemingly at a cafe of some kind. This person has very creepily taken a creep shot of them and is analyzing the dimensions of their buttocks and shoulder, drawn lines to represent their supposed lack of conformity to what people expect from the gender identities that exist in our lives, I guess. And has, oh my god, this woman here, this is what we will assume given a lot of the signifiers we're getting, got broader shoulders but smaller hips, you know, because all women have to have really round, wide hip. Everybody has to look like Megan the Stallion or else you're not a real woman. I'm saying it. Well, maybe for these people, maybe just, you know, that but white. But anyway. And like we've got this assumed man with broad shoulders, but also broader hips, even though these shoulders are literally wider. But okay, whatever you say, man. More from this very exceptional mind. This guy is in the RAF. I taught their quote-unquote daughter. They are inverted. What does that even mean? My husband was in the RAF too. This is some fucking deep transphobic lore, man. The men shower together. You can't be in RAF without being naked in front of people at some point. I think these things have both genitals. These things. Dehumanization. Yeah, this is the real feminism. If your feminism doesn't involve taking creep shots of random strangers and analyzing the dimensions of their asses, then I want nothing to do with it, frankly. What are we doing? My daughter's head teacher. Just taking creep shots of your own teacher. These have been censored by Katie, who's posted them here. What do you think? I don't know. Giving them a fucking southern accent is fucked up, because these are some three-head ass motherfuckers. What do you think? I'm seeing sloped shoulders, short arms, thin wrists, short torso, long legs, a big gap between the legs. Hips and shoulders looks the same. I really don't like this thing. In my defense, this isn't a good picture. In real life, I can see markers better than this picture, and he definitely gives me the vibes, but I'm still learning. Not an expert and just trying to figure this out myself. She's trying to learn more about transvestigation. So, like, the big problem here from this person, and there are many examples of this, is the same problem that you see with anti-Semites, with white nationalists, with Nazis. Like, everybody to them is Jewish. Everybody to them is in the out group. It's like some kind of hysteria, some kind of paranoia that they live with in their day-to-day lives, that everybody around them seeks to do them harm because they are secretly part of the out group, in this case, trans, right? To this person, literally everybody is trans. Everybody, except for them, of course. Why? Source, crackpipe.jpg. Friends of a friend, just look at the size difference in facial features. His are tiny, hers are massive in those eyes. Forgot to say, she also pretends to be a surrogate. She's literally a surrogate mother, meaning that she carries children and gives birth to children for people that cannot do so themselves, is somehow pretending to do that, and is where's she getting the babies from? Where is she getting the babies from? She's just developing them in a vat. She's like manufacturing bathtub children and producing that for the people that she surrogates for. Jesus Christ. My 10-year-old daughter's friend, she says she sees demons in her bedroom that have red eyes. Her sister is possessed and roams around the house at night, and she wants to be a boy. I think she is a boy. Yeah, I don't know. This does not seem a person who is well, if they're saying that they see demons in their bedroom. But this motherfucker definitely sees demons in literally everybody around them, because I'm pretty sure they probably think that trans people are also demonic in some capacity. Like, goddamn, man. Transphobia ruins the mind of people that get really involved in it. It completely ruins your life. See also, by the way, oh, I have her here, Joanne Rowling. This is not exactly what I was looking for, but wait. From NPR. J.K. Rowling's new book about a transphobe who faces wrath online raises eyebrows. Thank you for that, NPR. Like, she's got so much money. She has a literal castle. She doesn't need to be doing any of this. She gains nothing from doing any of this. In fact, she only loses credibility in the eyes of the public. But she has dedicated her fucking being and written a book longer than the Bible about herself, even though she claims it's not about her. Literally 1,024-page tome. Oh, under the name Robert Galbraith, by the way, which is the name of the founder of conversion therapy. You know, the way they used to literally just torture gay people to try to make them straight. Pretty cool. Right, and it literally includes, like, images of, like, fake tweets of harassment that a transphobic person would get. Jesus Christ. Like, life-ruining stuff. Now, luckily for her, she's very wealthy, so she'll be fine. But goddamn. Imagine the people that don't have J.K. Rowling money. They don't have a literal castle. From Mia Moore on Twitter, by the way, for the people that see trans people everywhere, Mia's got a lot of good examples to the effect that no, they cannot. So here is Sigourney Weaver, who is a cis woman and famous actress. So this is a classic from Mia. Says, yes, I mean, look at me, meaning that, you know, she passes as a woman pretending to be Sigourney Weaver. Male bone structure. Nothing feminine about that. Even ugly people look good with an entire industry caked onto one face. If you have a dick and balls, you are a do with gender dysphoria. That's fact. Deal with it. Bone structure is a dead giveaway. XYXX. It's literally a cis woman who is a famous actress. But we can always tell, right? Like I've always said time and time again, say it with me, chat, say it with me if you're watching. We can always tell is not a statement of fact. When right-wingers, transphobes, etc. say we can always tell, that is a statement of intent. They want it to be the case that they can always tell if somebody is trans, so it is easier for them to oppress them. That's it. They don't mean they can always tell, because very clearly they cannot. They just want to always be able to tell, which is why they don't want people to have access to trans healthcare, which is why they don't want people to be allowed to even socially transition, wear different clothes, right? Also, speaking of, Mia asked, do you think this woman is a predator? It's a man, brother. I seen a man once, and I know what they look like. It's a man, god damn it. You know it, I know it. I'm not saying nothing you don't already know. That's a man right there, brother. That's literally J.K. Rowling. It just happens to be a bit crushed version of her previous profile picture, which she has actually changed recently. So that's cool. Literally the queen of the transphobes is being clocked as a trans woman, aka a secret man. Also, apparently Rihanna is lying about being a woman too, because to these deeply psychotic people who need mental health professionals to analyze them and give them the help they need, unironically, my policies support making access to mental health care a lot more easier, and if they were to get instituted, these people would be able to get the help they need. Unfortunately, it's fucking heavily gatekept by money. This person says, they could be lying about being a cis woman. Real females have a different size, shape, and location of the pelvis. Easy way to tell, the bend of the male waist divides the pregnancy belly, and a female waist is above it. Rihanna is a male equals. Rihanna is faking pregnancy. He is we're just misgendering a cis woman. Let's go. That's pretty woke if you ask me. Like all celebrities are. Wait, what? Does this person think literally all celebrities are men? Wait, he is a man like all celebrities are? Wait, are women too stupid to be celebrities? Are women too inadequate to be able to actually rise to celebrity status? They all have to be secret men? Transphobes actually kind of believe that too. Transphobes not only get mad at like men in other sports like, I don't know, flag football or swimming, trans women in those sports, but they also get mad at trans women winning things like Jeopardy. What fucking possible advantage does a man have over a woman in the intellectual TV game Jeopardy? Like, are you literally just saying that men are inherently smarter than women? Because I don't know, man. If that's what your feminism tells you, I don't know that I really want to be a part of it, to be honest with you. I think I'm going to stick to my version of feminism, the intersectional, sorry, I'm talking about sexuality so much. The intersectional feminism that actually fights for the equality for all genders, including women, of course. Happen to be one of the genders, allegedly. The real men were the friends we made along the way? Evidently not. So we got more deranged lunacy. We're doing fucking trans phrenology. No baby, apparently. Female waist. That's not even her, that's not her waist. What does that mean? Female waist. Male waist. Male what? This is the actual waist. You mean to tell me that females have waists that go up to underneath their breasts? What are we talking about, man? Yeah, exactly, Dr. Robotnik. These are the people that say that trans people don't even understand basic biology. Is these people. Come on. Let's get serious, man. Also, just because we're here, and because it hints at some of the more anti-Semitism and racism you could potentially find in this, not saying it always is, but there is room for anti-Semitism and racism involved in this, and many people, not only me, have pointed this out. The Women's March logo changed from this one to this one. I really don't see much of a problem here. The reason why this logo is preferable usually is because this one has too many fine details, meaning that at super low resolution, like on a cell phone, it's going to be harder to recognize the logo. So you go for a simplified logo because it's going to be more recognizable at a low resolution, just simple graphic design shit in the age of smartphones. They changed their logo and people got really mad at it. So Maya Forstater, disgraced transphobe, who for some reason is lauded as like one of the popes of the transphobes, of the gender criticals, quotes the Women's March saying an objective truth, trans women are women, that's it, that's the tweet, and then takes the one image of this silhouette talking to the other one. The assumption here being that they see this one as not being a woman, as being a trans woman, aka a man, to them, and then talking to the person who looks more feminine. This person says the absolute state of the Women's March. And they're circling specifically this image. I wonder why they think this image looks mannish. The Women's March updating their logo to include a male head overlaid above the two women is the sort of thing dystopian satirical writers would have rejected for being too far-fetched. There are so many women that look like this. Holy shit. Relax. Given that male and female are allegedly just gender identities, this is a pretty interesting amendment to the logo of the Women's March. The entire logo changed, not just this part of it, by the way. Guys, come on. So, Punk Jess on Twitter says, oh no, oh no. A sad TERF story in 3 parts. 1. Obsessed transphobe Jane Claire Jones deems a female silhouette, quote-unquote, too male to be a woman. 2. Jane then awkwardly learns she has an identical side profile. 3. And this is the pièce de résistance. TERFs unfamiliar with who Jane is start referring to her as quote-unquote him and a trans woman. So here's Jane, the tweet we just read. Here is literally her own silhouette, picture perfectly matching the woman in the logo for the Women's March. And here are people claiming that she is actually a trans woman. Big round of applause, everybody. We figured it out. We figured out who the real men are. We figured out who the real women are. It's a wrap. We could take our ball and go home. All right, we can wrap this thing up. We have figured it out. Through the power of phrenology, we have figured it out. The reason why there are no real women, then apparently not. TERFs are apparently in favor of abolishing the concept of women. I didn't realize they'd be so misogynist. So yeah, this person does say, it's no wonder why rhinoplasty is the most common cosmetic surgery procedure. There are so many people that have a nose like this. But, interestingly enough, you know who else also is, stereotyped as having bigger noses? People of ethnic minorities. Black and brown people. Specifically, usually African Americans, black people, also some Latino people, even some Asian populations. A lot of ethnic minorities happen to have, as a stereotype, larger noses. This is not always the case, but that is the stereotype. If you look at the caricatures that racists make of black and brown people, you'll see that very clearly, that's what they think of them as well. Especially, also, yes, Jewish people. One of the most classic anti-Semitic tropes about Jewish people is for some reason they all have massive noses is what they think. Look at the Nazis. If you look at a lot of the propaganda that they made against Jewish people, always depicts somebody with a very large nose. Even modern neo-Nazis with things like the Happy Merchant has a big-ass fucking nose. So I'm not going to say that is directly correlative, right? That these so-called TERFs, these transphobes, saw this image with just a larger nose that isn't sloped up like they got a perfect nose job, and also no visible hair because maybe it's tied back. Like, your fucking abuela looks like this. Your grandmother looks like this. The fucking old ladies in media that you watch, like animated media, look like this. So, like, you can't draw a one-to-one correlation here. But, like, I don't know if you can be shocked that people would have questions about if there is racism or anti-Semitism involved when it comes to this. And it looks like there actually is. It's actually true. The foundations of transphobia are anti-Semitic, are racist. And they also manifest in the modern day in ways that could be said are racist and anti-Semitic. Black trans women, black trans femme people are held to some of the highest levels of scrutiny because even cis black women, for the longest time, have been stereotyped as being more mannish, more aggressive, right? Shockingly, that doesn't really help out the trans women out there, the trans femme people out there that happen to be black as well. But not only does this warp the mind of the transphobic person, it also ruins their lives. So here we got a post from Kaylin Conrad, content warning transphobia. In this video, no way. Gender-critical parents don't want to protect their trans children. They want their trans kids gone because they are disgusted by them. They encourage each other to cut their trans kids out of their lives and then cry, quote-unquote, parental alienation after it happens. After abusing their kids, they claim that they, the abusers, are actually the victims. Where have I heard this before? We get a sampling of their fucking psychopathy. This concerned parents group. Quote, my son won't talk to me for ages, but when I told him I finally opened my brick and mortar boutique, he was suddenly intrigued and has been randomly emailing me a lot more conversationally. It's been over 2 years since I've really seen him, other than 2 brief encounters. He lives about 850 miles away now. It got really far away, damn. So we imagine they're misgendering this entire time, this person. Anyway, that was all well and good until he sent me a picture of him. I'm still shell-shocked. He has long black hair. He's blonde. So they dyed their hair and grew it out. Ooh. And was wearing full-on makeup, girly sunglasses, and a dress. Oh. I'm supposed to be worried about this? It's really messing with my head. He looks nothing like my son. I would say that they look like your kid, because they are. They just don't look like what you wanted them to look like. They aren't the person you wanted them to be. You wanted your kid to be exactly how you imagined them to be, and then when it turned out that they weren't, you abused them. That's it. That's plain as day. I can keep up the conversation, I suppose, as long as I don't say anything about his choices. It's nice to know he's okay, but part of me wants to just live in peace again. What? How are you the victim here? Part of me just wants to live in peace again. Yeah, maybe if you didn't drive your fucking kid away by being a transphobic or bigoted asshole, they probably would still be hanging out, chilling, calling you more often. So, for one thing, all this talk from right-wingers about, oh, daddy issues, not only do, like, a lot of cis women that just happen to have, like, tattoos, piercings, blue hair, pronouns, whatever, but just feminine people in general, and especially trans women or gender nonconforming men who are, like, very feminine. Ooh, you've got daddy issues. Like, how's your relationship with your parents? Even though these motherfuckers are probably getting abused by their own parents. It's not a problem of the parents if a person has daddy issues. The problem there is on the dad, you dumb fuck. How is it possibly the child's fault that a father is inadequate? That a mother is inadequate? They're literally the parents of the kid. They're the guardian of the child. They're the one that is supposed to guide them through life until they can become their own adult and go on to do whatever it is they're going to do. How is that the problem of the child? We're just victim blaming children and everybody else, I guess. I should be happy he wants to talk to me, but all I want to do is shut him out now because he's really grossing me out. So I actually haven't really touched on this too much. There is a inbuilt factor of disgust when it comes to bigoted people generally, when it comes to queer people, but also specifically trans people in this context. And that motivation of disgust and also fear is very powerful and also one of the cornerstones of right-wing ideology in the modern day. And yes, you know, the pillars of fascism. Yup, wow. The Republican Party in this country, conservatives generally, have understood that it is easier, unfortunately, to gain power through fear and disgust rather than empathy. The only way this country and the world will ever actually achieve any amount of prosperity for the human beings and the rest of the beings that live on this planet will only be if we start to understand that empathy is the way we have to lead. Because fear and disgust type responses just leads to shit like doctors' offices and literally the best children's hospital in the United States getting bomb threats called, getting death threats, having to hire extra security because of the amount of threats they're getting as a result of people like Matt Walsh, Tucker Carlson, Chaya Rachika, Libs of TikTok, pushing their harassment campaigns, capitalizing on that fear and disgust. And once again, you're still poor, motherfucker. You still ain't got a good job. You still got medical debt because you got sick, or your mom's got medical debt and you gotta help her because she got diabetes but you can't afford her insulin. Is attacking these trans people living their lives really gonna get that for you? You are literally acting as stupid as the Republicans and conservatives in this country, the people in power, hope that you are. And behind closed doors, literally say that you are. And I don't believe you are as stupid as they say they are, but you're acting in that way. They are actively weaponizing the fact that you are easily persuaded by fear and disgust of things that you don't understand in order to get you to vote for them and give them money so that they can get power and continue to do fuck all for you. Continue to not do anything about the potholes that riddle your fucking roads. Continue to do nothing about the fact that you have to drive your kids everywhere and they can't just take a bike to go to school or even walk to school like people used to. It just ruins your life and everybody else's. It does nothing to benefit anybody. That's part of why right-wingers push it. So these are replies of that thread, I believe. You should never apologize when someone, even your son, has violated basic boundaries. He's violated the basic boundaries of being the person that they are, which contradicted the expectations of the parent. Because parents like this see their children as property. They see their children as objects. They see their children as dolls that they get to dress up and live vicariously through, and that's it. And when they don't turn out the way they want, you gotta throw them away. It's the mindset that comes with the behavior that is problematic. Stay strong. I'm nearing this stage with my child. Thing is, even when she came out 8 years ago, I remember crying to my husband because, quote, everything is going to change. Well, yeah, a lot's gonna change, but it doesn't have to be in a negative capacity. There are countless good parents out there, of which this person is not, who are accepting of their kids, no matter who they turn out to be, continue to have loving families, and prosper. It's a lot of changes. You got to get used to a new name. You got to get used to new pronouns. I know it's kind of hard for some people. Change in language. saying different words. I think you can get a handle on it if you try hard enough. What voice was I using again? I've used so many voices at this point, I don't even know. From that moment, it changed. I think I was using that or something. When she turned 18 and the hormones started, I started feeling a certain way about the hair and body changes. Okay, and keep that shit to yourself, homie. Sounds like a you problem. The entire, I don't know what, we are just morphin'. We're a mighty morphin' Power Rangers. The entire time she's living her best life with all affirming group of friends in the drag community. Me and my husband definitely the bad guys in her life. Yeah, no shit. Obviously. I'm glad you have the self-awareness to figure that out. But obviously this is like through the perspective of my deluded child. Also, I look at her differently. Sad to say, I barely like her anymore. What the fuck is wrong? Why did you have kids? What are you doing? Literally just adopt a pet. Get a cat. Get a dog. Jesus Christ. If you want a pet that bad, you're treating your fucking kid like that. A human being. Thank you for bringing this up. You are not alone in your thoughts. There's nothing in this world I thought could make me want to run from it. I take all challenges on and even thrive from the chaos. But this, nope, my son saying he's a woman is taking me down. I can't even fight back. I'm nothing. I've never been so submissive in all my life. God damn it, man. 1 year since my child left, and I'm finally feeling free of the sorrow on most days. Oh, thank God for you. Glad that worked out for you. And I feel like I don't want to make amends. I don't want him to come back unless it's my son returning. So unless you, as my child, are exactly the way I want you to be, don't come back to my house. Like, these are the people that are talking about, ooh, people who affirm the gender identity of their kids are child abusers. These are the people saying this. These are the people saying that it's child abuse for a parent to take their child who expresses that they have some questions about their gender identity to the mental and medical health professionals to have them analyze over fucking numerous years, figure out if they are trans or not with the input of all of these people involved, and eventually go on to do whatever it is that is prescribed by the doctor. Those are the people abusing children, apparently, from the people that literally hate their own kids so much for not being just the way that they wanted them to be, for dressing a way that they didn't want them to dress. Come on. The guilt is there, but easier than the burdens of confession and Tavina helplessness. I feel what you're saying, and Mom, it's okay to not have this relationship. I need assistance. What is this language I'm seeing on my screen? I feel what you are saying. You're seen, you're heard, you're valid. And Mom, it's okay to not have this relationship if it doesn't serve you. They're talking about it like they're talking to another person about their boyfriend being an asshole. Like, you don't need him. Trust me. Dump him. He's not worth it. But it's your kid. It's your child. It's your literal own flesh and blood. It's your own DNA. But I'm glad we've wokeified the language a little bit. That's kind of fun. Anyway. In addition to all that, just to cap this off on a dose of reality. From NBC, DFW, don't fuck with me. Be an M at the end there. Trans youth investigations has CPS on brink of collapse, staff warns. Texas CPS staff warn in a new court filing that investigating gender-affirming care is leading to resignations and internal turmoil. We talked about this on the previous video. Conservatives are a danger to children. The conspiracy theories that right-wingers push about trans people and like the people that are affirming their gender identity of their kid being child abusers and whatever has literally led to in Texas, Child Protective Services not being able to adequately protect children.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
The result of this delusional hysteria is literally more children being harmed. That's it. At the end of the day, all of this, ooh, what about the children? What about the children rhetoric literally just hurts more kids. How do you even wrap up a segment like this? It's already 2 hours long. My profound apologies, high progressive, but it's an important conversation to have. I'm pretty happy with how this video has turned out as well. It's already 3 a.m. almost. I'm gonna just end it here. Fuck it. I hope you enjoyed whatever you could enjoy from this video. I don't fucking know. Get me out of here. This video's gotta call it as Asphodel. Thanks for being a based Conure enjoyer and also for chatting it up in my live stream chat. If you'd like to be the next Conure Call Out, all you gotta do is follow me on Twitter @ConureCC. Retweet my video links when they go live. Remember to subscribe to the channel. All notifications on with the bell. Leave a like to be like. Comment something cool down below if you're cool down below. And cool down below. And also, hit up the Twitch. Twitch.tv/ConureCC. We fucking stream every other goddamn day, Jack. For like 7-8 hours average. We do a lot of stuff here. It's pretty fun. Bye.